make a recording of this for anybody who would like to pass this along or would like a copy after we're finished, just so you know. So this will be available to you after the webinar. So looking at the questions that we're going to answer today. First is, how can I get my HD resolution with my current cable infrastructure, meaning coax cable? So we're going to address that. We're going to show you exactly how to get the high definition video, and we're going to talk about the specifications of the cable as well. We're going to just look at what is HD over coax. I hear HD over coax, I hear TVI, I hear CVI, I hear all these acronyms. Well, we're going to peel that back, and we're going to look at what the acronyms stand for, and we're going to look at the technology overall. And then we're going to dive in and say, when should I utilize this technology? What applications, when I come across, should I use this? Or at what point in my remodel or new installation do I need to consider using this technology? So we're going to talk about this. Then we're going to talk about the cable itself. What kind of distances can I expect to use? What types of cable, Cat5, coax, RG6, RG59, we're going to talk about that as well. Then, for those of you that don't have the budget for a complete overhaul with this technology, how can I continue using pieces and parts of what I have and then supplement it with the HD technology? So we're going to talk about that and the unique things that CoStar does in that realm. And then what about multiple sites? I have a 50-site floor plan that I need to be able to manage all of these systems. I love your current VMS and how is it going to work with this technology. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then what does the system layout look like? At the end, when we go into the applications, we're going to look at a system. We're going to peel the analog out, and we're going to pop in the TVI and show you exactly how that takes place. And then, of course, I've got a tight budget. I have to do all this on a shoestring budget, and that's where TVI really shines. It's a great cost proposition. The value proposition is there for TVI. Gives you a lot for your money. So we're going to talk about all those things. We're going to answer all these questions. So again, as we go along, if you have questions, please feel free to fire away, and at the end or during the presentation, I'll address those. First, let's just talk about CoStar real quick. For those of you that aren't familiar with CoStar, we're headquartered in Coppell, Texas. We've been in this business for over 15 years now. We have focused on the security surveillance side of the house. Now, we do have many companies underneath the CoStar Technologies umbrella, which CoStar Video, that's the division that I'm responsible for. We also have Cohue HD CoStar, which is our industrial division. Traffic, critical infrastructure. We manufacture our cameras in Poway, California. It is really high-end traffic. We own a very large percentage of the traffic market. The critical infrastructure market, we make a lot of very specialized cameras. And then we also have IBS Imaging, which is a specialty industrial vision distributor. They sell all types of specialty cameras and modules for machine vision, robotics, medical vision, any type of specialty camera, high-speed inspection. They sell the products that go into that mix. So the underlying theme for all of the companies at CoStar is the video component. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. First question is, what is HD over coax? And basically what this is it's a technology that transmits high-definition video over your existing RG59 or RG6 cable. Now, it's very, very similar to the same transmission as an analog camera. The major difference between the two technologies, IP, which also gives you high definition, and HD over coax, high definition, is really where the encoding is taking place. So which one of the components in the system is doing the heavy lifting? With an IP system, most of the work is being done at the camera side. The compression of the video, the motion detection triggers, those are all going to occur at the camera itself. The information is then sent back to the recorder where it's captured and held. Now with HD over coax, exact same thing as the analog technology, the camera produces the signal at full resolution, full images per second. It sends it all back to the recorder, and it's up to the recorder at that point to decide how much I want to keep, what frame rate, what resolution, and it does the heavy lifting on that side. So that's why HD over coax real-time video viewing is popular in some applications, because the recorder is receiving all the data all the time, real time, and it decides what it's going to keep. So of the technologies that are out there, CoStar uses what's called TVI. It stands for Transport Video Interface. There's a lot of pluses to this technology, and we're going to talk about that on the next slide. But it basically allows for over 1,000 foot of video transmission with bidirectional communication with the camera. That's really the key piece for us, is the ability to talk on that same wire and communicate with the camera and the recorder at the same time. So there's no running of any extra cables for that communication. So let's look at the technologies. What do all these acronyms stand for? So let's look at, first and foremost, TVI. That's what CoStar uses. The reason we like this is the transmission distance is incredibly long. It has the bidirectional communication, and it's probably, in my opinion, the most widely accepted by programmers and integrators and manufacturers out there. So it's very widely used. So finding cameras that can be switched between systems is very easy in this scenario. So it's very stable, very good cost proposition, and all the technology is there. Now, the second, CVI, many of you may have heard that acronym, Composite Video Interface is what it stands for. It is very, very similar to your TVI. Transmission distances are the same. You do have bidirectional communication, but it is a licensed technology. So that scares off some of the manufacturers. It's owned by a manufacturer that licenses out the technology. So that is a stumbling block for some and a deterrent for people not to write into this CVI technology interface. But by the most part, apples to apples, it's very comparable to the TVI. Now, AHD, which stands for Analog High Definition, that's the third that you'll run across, and it has had limited resolution. It has not kept up with the TVI and the CVI. It seems to lag behind on its resolution offering. When it first came out, 720p was as high as it offered. It may have caught up to the 1080p, the 2 megapixel now, but it's still running behind. And it does not support bidirectional communication, meaning I can't tell my camera to refocus or reprogram or do the things that I would like to do remotely. There's no bidirectional. And it's really only supported by a lot of the lower price. A lot of the Chinese manufacturers will use this technology in their products because it is very low cost. And I do not believe it's licensed. So we really had no interest in this format, so we did not write anything in this format. And then finally, this is a product line with many branches, which is called SDI. It's been out the longest, yet it's the least widely accepted technology that's out there. HD SDI has been around for years. It was used in the transmission broadcast market. That's really where it was designed. But the limitations are the 300 foot or less on the transmission, so it can't go the distance that the other cameras can. The bidirectional communication is not there. Programmers don't see the value in writing to it because it is expensive and it is limited. Now, they have tried to come up with SDIX or EX. There's been a couple iterations of this HD SDI, but nothing with a foothold. So it's really more for the broadcast market for short cable runs, and it really hasn't taken a foothold in the security side. So those are the most popular ones that are out there right now, and there are some hybrid boxes out there that will allow you to do multiple. So you can do a TVI and maybe an AHD and then analog, or a combination of the others. But for the most part, in my opinion, TVI is the most widely accepted. All right, with that being said, what CoStar does to help with the backward compatibility back into analog in our product line, probably I would say 85 to 90% of our product line have the ability to plug in your HD TVI and power. We also include the video output. So in a hybrid situation, if you are replacing a camera, you can replace an analog camera with a camera that's also analog, and at the point in time you are ready to do an upgrade, you can then just switch the connection over to the TVI output. And they also stream both simultaneously, so if you need to send one to the TVI recorder and then you want to send one up to an analog monitor, you can split the signals out that way as well. But as we progress through this presentation, when we come to some of the scenarios for the hybrid ability, I just want to make sure everyone's clear that the cameras have to have these three connectors to be able to do the hybrid that we are going to be discussing. Not all TVI manufacturers will include that video output. So just want to make sure that's clear. Okay, let's talk about the types of cable that we can utilize. A good rule of thumb is if they have an analog camera on a system right now, then the distances are fine. You can run conservatively with an RG59 cable about 750 feet of distance. The RG6, it's a little bit further than that. Conservatively, it's 1,000 feet, probably closer to 1,400 feet. But just to be safe, good rule of thumb is the 750 and 1,000. And if it has an analog camera, there's probably no reason why you can't put the TVI camera on there using the same existing lines. So coax cable, nice and simple, very easy. Just plug it in and let it go back to the recorder. Now, in a Cat5 scenario, TVI has the full capacity to transmit over Cat5 using one of our Balun hubs. So just like the analog cameras have done in the past, you can change the cameras out or change a camera with a Balun and allow it to transmit over Cat5 cable. Same concept. It is not the same as a analog Balun hub. This does have to be a TVI. And the distances are really limited by the amount of power that I can push down those lines. In the TVI, without any power, if I just want to transmit TVI over a Cat5, I can go 240 meters, which is 787 feet. Depending on the camera, you've got a half an amp, which are most of your indoor cameras will run at half an amp or less. So at about 600 or 260 feet distance, if I am running the power down the same Cat5 line, so I'm coupling the connectors for power, and then I'm sending my transmission down one of the pairs for video. On outdoor cameras, they run about almost an amp, a little less in most cases, so I've got about 180-foot distance there. So with our Balun hubs, which are transmitting video as well as power on the cables, this is a good rule of thumb and the distances for what you can look at. Now, to give you an idea of how the Baluns work, for those of you that are not that familiar with the Balun hub technology, then this is a quick layout. What we're looking at here is the Cat5. So if I have a Cat5 infrastructure, basically this is run from the head end out to the cameras. At the head end, This is where our transmission box would be placed. The Cat5 would plug directly into this box. There is a breakout on the box that brings your B and C connectors into the recorder. And at the end, you would have one of these balun that would basically plug in the Cat5 and give you the TVI and the power for all your cameras. So in that layout, you may have a mixture or a combination of these two technologies. You may already have analog cables run, but you want to add a few extra cable runs. You may want to consider doing that with Cat5 and not coax going forward. So this will give you the ability to handle that. So with that being said, let's look at where this technology should be used. When do I want to use TVI versus when do I want to use IP, and what do I need to tell my customer when they ask about this technology? So I've got 4 scenarios that I'm going to lay out. It's the installation type. So we're going to first take a break-fix scenario. So if you have analog and a piece breaks, we're going to look at when or what you should replace that with. We're going to look at a minor remodel, someone that's just maybe doing a small technology refresh. We're going to look at a major remodel. I'm coming in, redoing a retail store, I'm redoing a warehouse facility. And then let's talk about new installations. When or what technology makes the most sense for new installations? And this, of course, is the CoStar technology. When should they use each one of these pieces? So, in my opinion, a camera or recorder analog that breaks should never be replaced back with a pure analog camera. In my opinion, you would continue using the existing coax cable. It's already there. It makes perfect sense to continue using it. But since the hybrid technology is there, cost is comparable, I would always lean towards replacing the technology with HD over coax on the analog side. So your recorder goes down, I would 100% change it out to a HD over coax, because the CoStar recorder has the ability to still take the analog in, and it will auto detect TVI. So whatever you feed our recorder, it will recognize it and allow for it. So in any break-fix scenario going forward, I would 100% recommend using this HD over coax. Now, in a minor remodel, let's say you're building a wing, you're changing out some cameras, you're just going through, same thing, both cameras and recorders, I would definitely reuse the coax cable that is existing there, and I would use it with the HD over coax. So both of those scenarios are most definitely HD over coax applications. Even if the recorder's not getting changed out, but the cameras are, put cameras in that can have both, so you can continue streaming the video back in analog, and when you're ready, just switch it over. Now, in a major remodel, when I've got cameras and recorders most likely being changed, the coax cable is existing. This is a situation where it's really up to the budget. If you have the ability to install Cat5 at that point, I would definitely look at that. Moving to the IP might be a consideration. So at this major remodel stage, you've really got the choice. Do I want to go ahead now at this point, switch over to IP? Switching to IP is going to give you over HD over coax. It's going to give you higher resolution possibilities. It's going to give you 360-degree camera capabilities. It's going to give you just more technology being offered in the IP side than the HD over coax. However, you know, the budget still may be tight. Put the Cat5 in, knowing you're going to run the TVI over it in the short term, but ultimately going to IP, you'll have the infrastructure there. So the major remodel is really the grayest area, but a new installation where you're starting from scratch, cameras, recorders, most definitely Cat5. I wouldn't run another piece of coax. And in that situation, I would strongly look at an IP solution. Again, it's not hard, fast rule, but you could, at that point, make the argument to just go straight IP. And in the case of a CoStar, it will not matter what technology you're using or have deployed in the CoStar line, because it's all going to deal with StarNet. Oh, I apologize, I ran over here. StarNet, for those of you that are new to CoStar, is our VMS platform. It's been previously known as IRAS. For years and years, we've named it IRAS. We have now relaunched our VMS with the StarNet nomenclature. We do have webinars that cover all those changes. It's just an upgrade to what we've had in the past. So for those of you that are familiar with IRAS, you definitely want to go on our website and look at the StarNet. You just load it, and it replaces your IRAS, brings all your sites over, and it will be rebranded StarNet and give you some more functionality. But the takeaway piece I want everyone to realize is that all the technologies that we sell, that CoStar sells, from the analog to the HD over coax and the XDI, which is the IP format, everything communicates back through StarNet. So depending on what your customer has, they have some analog, they have some HD over coax, they have some IP, all of that technology will be wrapped up into StarNet so that you can see it all at one time. And we're actually going to take a look at that right now. So we're going to drop into StarNet. Let me pull it up, and I'll show you a good example. This is StarNet. This is the VMS that we sell. It's actually free. It comes with the platform, so it's not licensed. You can load as many copies as you'd like. And the nice thing about this is, regardless of the technology, here on the left-hand side, you'll see my device tree. I have all kinds of cameras in here, from TVIs to analog to IP. So let me just take our demo room. Oh, let's take our corporate office here and drag it across. So here's an example, a good example of a hybrid system. We had analog. We've been doing this 15 years, so we had a lot of analog cameras on our outside of our building. 2 of those cameras needed to be replaced, in which they are the upper 2, the one here on the left and the one in the center. These cameras were replaced with TVI cameras. And a good example of that is looking at the side parking lot. This is my analog picture. It's 4:3 ratio. My zoom ability at this point is limited. When I start to zoom in, my image starts to pixelate rather quickly. So it gives me a general view. It serves a purpose. But looking back at the HD over coax, this is using the same wires, the same power supply, and everything that was out there with an analog camera. And now I have a widescreen format. I'm able to pick up some digital zoom. I'm able to see a lot more detail. And I didn't have to run a single cable. So that's what I would recommend most definitely when you look at upgrading the technology regardless. If they still have the analog recorder, go ahead and put one of our cameras on there so that it will be ready when they upgrade. Now I'm also going to, let's do this. Let me pull over on this same screen. I've got IP cameras that I'm going to pull over that are using 360-degree technology. I've got some PTZs. I've got some advanced wide dynamic range cameras. I've got analytics going here that are just basically tracking the amount of time that people are staying in these zones. I also have heat mapping capability that's telling me where movement has occurred over the last hour in my warehouse, where my traffic patterns are. So these are the things that I would pick up on the IP side. So in new installations where budgets are usually larger and they're looking more forward into new technologies, these are things that you would want to consider. But up here at the top, I can't tell that this is HD over coax, versus the one on the bottom being analog. So that's a great example of how these things work together. And on playback, I have the same capability. I can go into playback. I can look at these cameras playing back regardless of the technology. It's all done right here on the single screen. All right. I am going to just show one more thing here that's also very, very helpful with the technologies, the mapping portion of this. Let me take these cameras off. All right, here is, let's look at our overview. This is our building here. So in this building, I have a map. This is a Google Earth image of our facility here in Coppell. I've got my overview. These cameras are plotted on the outside of the building. These are active icons that I can click through and look at the views that are attached. Now, it would not matter if these were analog or IP on that recorder. The technology will still carry across. If I want to go inside the building, I can hyperlink inside in the office area, and I can start doing basically a virtual tour of my facility. Front lobby, 360 camera, boardroom. I can look at all these. These can be the analogs, the TVI, the IP, all of those technologies together on the map. So the point I want to make is it doesn't matter what the customer has out in the field. What he will see on his screen is going to come right through this VMS and give you a great, great image. So we do a whole presentation, an hour-long webinar on just the VMS. So look for that series when it comes out. I'd encourage you to sign up and look at that, as well as our IP technology as well. We have the different webinars in that regard as well. So, okay, that's all the time we're going to spend in the VMS. I'm going to go ahead and remove all these maps, and then we go ahead and close this down and get this off the screen. Okay, we're going to continue on now with the next stage of this is we're going to start looking at some of the applications, how this deploys into an application. And I want to do a quick comparison, just for those of you that are new to CoStar, not familiar with the product line. We have 4 basic product series that are all compatible with the StarNet. Those series include our E-Series, which is a analog recorder. It's our low-cost, limited storage. It's limited these days. That's 2 hard drives inside, which could be 6, 12 terabytes worth of storage. So it's not as limited as it once was because of the amount of hard drives. Compact, so it's very small, like the size of a cigar box. And it's really a great replacement for analog systems. So if you are in a break-fix scenario, budget is everything, they don't want to spend the money for the upgrade for the future, then this E-Series is the perfect mix for that. Now, we also have a series which is called the SP series, still compatible with the StarNet. It's a great value. It's your traditional DVR, rack mountable, CD drive. It's a lot of storage capacity. But honestly, it is a dying breed for us, the analog series. There's not a lot of people that, if I have the money to buy this SP, there is really no reason not to just go ahead and buy the ET series, which is the series that includes the HD over coax. The 2 boxes are almost identical in size and function, but the ability to do the hybrid and the price point is negligible between these 2 boxes. So when you're doing HD over coax, this is the product that you want to focus on. Then on our flagship series, this is our NVR. It also uses StarNet VMS, and it combines the power and video of the same cable. Meaning it's got PoE, and it's very, very what's enterprise level, I should say. It's got 360 cameras, IP or 1080p cameras. It's got the ability to do all sorts of technologies, including analytics, extended storage. It's got a lot of options on there. And we have a webinar just devoted to this XDI series. But between these four technology, these four product lines, we've got everything covered from very basic entry level to advanced enterprise. And the nice thing that we've just introduced in this XDI product line is a 64-channel recorder, which we've never offered before. So we have the ability to go in one server up to 64 channels and put just tremendous amounts of storage into that server. Okay, moving along here now into the third and final piece of our presentation is the applications of just how does this technology go into an actual installation. So what we often find is that existing analog recorders are out there, name a brand, let's say they have it. It's not a CoStar, but it doesn't matter. So you have a recorder out on the site, also has the existing power supply for the cameras already installed and mounted. You've got a group of cameras all over the building, usually 16 is the sweet spot, sometimes 32. All of these cameras and recorder are all connected through the existing power cables and your existing coax cables. So in this scenario, there's thousands, not upon thousands of installations just like this. So the first time you come across an application like this where the recorder's down or they're wanting to upgrade some but not all of their installation, only thing that has to happen is this old recorder comes out. This is our ET series recorder. When that goes in, now you have all the flexibility in the world to start the upgrade. You don't have to change camera one on the first day. You can leave everything analog. It's all going to come back and connect to this recorder and record just like it had. Now, once the first camera goes down or an area needs higher resolution coverage, just change one of the cameras out. Pop it in there. One thing you want to make sure that you keep in mind is the power supply. Keep an eye on this power supply and make sure that it has enough amperage out to cover the TVI cameras. They do take more power on average than what your analog cameras do because you're doing more things with the camera. So keep that in mind. You might have to add some additional power or another breakout power supply, but just keep that in mind. Now, from this point forward, this camera is high definition analog with all of these other cameras just being regular transmission cameras. As needed, cameras can just be replaced, and I guarantee you they're going to be less money than what they paid for the original camera that was analog. So the value proposition is there. Or in this case, let's just rip them all and change all these cameras over, and then you've got a high definition system. You didn't have to spend a dime on recabling, and it's a very low cost transition over, and now you're on StarNet, and you have all these tools available to you from StarNet. So that's how easy that transition piece is. And what you get, and also the single IP, I left that piece off. It's using the same IP address that the recorder was using that you took out. So the IT department doesn't have to worry. They're not doing anything different. Just give me the same IP address. I'll change the recorder out, and away we go. Now, once you're in this scenario, what you gain from that, communication-wise, is huge. You are able to control this system like this. Let's say you had 4 sites out there, each one having a handful of cameras. You've got your StarNet software loaded up at corporate headquarters. I've got a WAN that I'm communicating across, so my StarNet is going out to the WAN and it's going down to the recorder. Nothing unusual to this point. It's just like every analog system out there right now. We're able to control the schedules, the motion detection of the camera, anything that recorder is doing, we can control it, schedules, things like that. Now, that's as far as we've been able to go up to this point. With an analog system, the communication stops at the recorder. Now, with TVI, and going back to that very first slide where we talked about bidirectional communication, I now have the ability to go down to the camera level. I can send communication protocols through that coax cable to tell my camera what to do at this point. I've never been able to do that. That's when you got to roll a truck to make an adjustment, to reprogram cameras, things like that. I have to have a technician on site to do that in an analog world. But with this technology, I have the ability now to refocus the camera, to zoom the camera, to go into the menus, turn wide dynamic range on, turn it off, turn backlight on, turn all the functionality of the camera can now be controlled just like an IP camera. So the technology is there to allow us to do that now. So I can set at my desk at the corporate headquarters and I can talk all the way down to the camera level. If the camera has the remote focus capability, which a lot of them do, you can re-zoom it, refocus it, reset that camera with all from your chair at your desk. So that's a huge upgrade. So every camera that's out there can now be controlled through the box all the way down to the camera level. All right. Now, let's look at a floor plan, an installation deployment, let's say. Here I have a floor plan of a warehouse distribution center, much like what we're all used to. It has a DVR, name the brand, doesn't matter at that point. There's the existing coax already run to all the cameras on the perimeter. There's power run to all these cameras. This would be an upgrade technology for a remodel, which we were using the model earlier. So at what point would it make sense to go to IP from my analog? Well, it may not make financial sense on a remodel here. This is a perfect application for the HD over coax because these are long cable runs. You spend a lot of money getting these cables out there. So at this point, my technology refresh on a small remodel or even a major remodel, I may just want to change out the recorder, get an ET series box in there, and change out this camera and maybe this camera. I have now just put high definition into my system. I have refreshed everything onto StarNet, which I now have got tools I never had before, got beautiful video, and the next question is how fast can I change these other ones out to get my high definition. So these can just be changed at will. And everything is still run on the same company. The backbone of the network for the recorder just going to the switch, one cable connection, just like the old DVR. So there's not a huge change into being able to get from their current infrastructure over to this technology. So, okay, going forward, a couple notable things as we wrap up. For anyone in the financial side, this series, the ET series, has full capability of recording the transactions from NCR and Diebold machines. So I can overlay the text output of the transaction onto the video. Here's an example of a lady getting money out of an ATM machine. Here's the transaction data that's on the screen, and I can search that by the character stream. So if I want to know when this transaction occurred, I can type this lady's card number in, do a search, and it's going to pull up every time she came to the ATM machine or that card was used. So that is capable in our analog. Capability for this is also in our IP system and the HD over coax. So all the product lines that we offer have that capability. Okay, and finally, the HD over coax line. Let's take a quick look at that. It's made up. It's very simple to lay out. That's one of the things I really love about this system. Is you have three options. You've got a 4-channel compact chassis. You've got an 8-channel or a 16-channel. These two are rack mountable. They can accommodate up to 24 4 terabytes inside each of these boxes and up to 8 terabytes. Let me see, is that right? No. 12 terabytes inside the 4-channel. Once you pick the number of channels, you also have the ability to add extended video storage. So if that 24 is not enough for you, you can add another 24 terabytes externally with direct attached storage. So you've got up to almost 50 terabytes worth of storage, direct attach. And then the cameras. This line is continuing to grow between indoor, outdoor, board cameras, box cameras, PTZs, height strip cameras. We've got a full range of cameras options for this product line, and it continues to grow. So you've got a lot of options when it comes to system design. So when you get to the point you're ready to design a system, we've got a team here, a team of design engineers that can help you lay things out, get you quotes on any of the products that you need. And as a wrap up, some of the things that we found are very, very good for this technology. We find the retail segment has really taken to this because they have small footprint stores. They've got a large analog wire infrastructure out there, and the budgets are always tight in that vertical. So retail has been very, very good. Financial and the banking, kind of the same thing as retail. A lot of footprints or cookie cutter stuff. The text insertion makes this very, very appealing to that market. And the clip copy, the technology that we use to package the output of the recorder to give to the police and to the FBI or whoever, is very, very friendly to the banking industry. They really like that. Schools is also a place that has really adopted this technology. Anything that has multiple sites with current cable infrastructures, that high definition video is probably going to suit their needs for many years to come. That's a great application for this. And the final slide. Why use the ET series? Why the CoStar solution versus everyone I'm sure is being flooded with all sorts of advertisements for the cheapest thing out there, the lowest dollar. You buy 12 cameras for $10 kind of stuff. It's crazy what you see out there. But really the value proposition for this ET series is the VMS. If you haven't had a close look at the StarNet VMS, I encourage you to do that. It is very powerful. It is a enterprise level product at a fraction of the cost of enterprise companies. Your Verint, your Vigilons, we go against those guys all the time with our VMS, and it's a great value proposition. The health check, the mapping, the clip copy, multi-site management, very powerful tool. It's still allowing for upgrades on the same platform, so once you get to the ET series, the XDI series, which is the IP, is just right around the corner, uses the same VMS. And great value. The point now is coming to that I can supply my HD over coax at pretty close to the same price as my analog, so it's a great value. Before you deploy any analog, I would definitely take a look at this TVI. And then years of proven performance. This platform has been out in its current state for 15 years that we've had this product line out there. It's been a long time, years of proven performance, and for those of you that are using it now, I'm sure you can attest to that. We've got systems out there that have been going for many, many, many years. All right, with that being said, we're about right on time. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my information up on the screen for you. For anybody that may want to reach out to me directly, this is my direct line here at my desk, my email address, the CoStar video site. So for anybody that has any additional questions, if you want a copy of this recording of this presentation to pass along, you're more than welcome. I will have to send you a Dropbox link for you to pull it off because it's going to be a big piece of video, but I'll be glad to do that. If there's anybody that needs a quote or would like to have pricing on this, let me know, or your sales rep, for those of you that have already had dealings with your CoStar regional manager, then please reach out to them and they'll be happy to help you out. So with that being said, if there are questions, anything anybody wants me to go back to, review, I'll be happy to do that. So I'll give everyone a second to think of their best questions if they have one. If you don't have any questions, we're going to wrap up. This will conclude the webinar. And I do appreciate everyone's time today. I know it's not always easy to peel time out of your day, but hopefully you picked up some insight into this technology. Okay, I've got a question coming across here dealing with the PTZs. Okay, this is a great question. All right, the question is, how does this cabling structure work with pan-tilt zooms? So, great question. We have PTZs that will work in the system. You do not have to run a 485 line for the TVI PTZs. They work just like the old coaxitron from Pelco. The data comes across the same video cable. So this is a great application for anyone in the retail side where you may have a fixed camera in a location, but you've always wanted a PTZ there, but you didn't want to pay to run the extra cable out. Now I can take the analog camera down, put the PTZ in, use the existing coax cable, which will now control the movement of the PTZ. So for retailers that have large footprints that want to put a PTZ in the place of a fixed camera, you can go to town now. You can put that in, run it over the same exact coax line. So that makes it nice and easy. Great question. All right. Okay, the next question is the technology for the megapixel. What is the maximum megapixel capability of the technology? So right now we offer everything at a 1080p resolution, which is our sweet spot. It's a fine balance between length of storage and quality of video. Now there are some 3s and starting to be 4 megapixel cameras out there. A lot of the recorders are not built to handle that type of processing power, but I would look for in the future at some point 4, maybe 5 megapixel cameras in the TVI technology. But right now the sweet spot really seems to be in that 1080p or 720p resolution. It's where the technology is really supporting it. So, all right, looks like that's all the questions we have. I appreciate your time once again. Please reach out to me if you have any questions at my email address. Be happy to address them. And look for future webinars. We've got the XDI webinars. We've got some on our 360-degree camera. We've got the StarNet series. So look for those to come across and welcome you to sign up for those. All right, with that being said, I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much for your time.